Crap, I'm out of stamina. I have to rest a second before he... Dang. Still on cooldown. He has a big stamina lead. Like, what am I supposed to do? No, please wait. That, my friend, is the comedy sketch of what people call in this LEGO Dead by Daylight ripoff, looping. Looping is when you, well, loop a certain place to keep stamina and distance from the killer. This strategy is hated because it's another one of those strategies that require no skill, presented with a Pac-Man nerd emoji gif, yada yada, you get the deal. So I'm going to say the grass is green again and say that yes, looping is a good strategy. Looping was actually a big talking point in the comments of my targeting video, so I figured I should do a looping video. I'll cover the reason why this is a good strategy, how to use it and fight it, and when it gets ugly. Remember that this video's purpose is to persuade people and to help the inexperienced get on their feet. I won't cover like really boring advanced stuff, you know, there's 30-minute tutorials for stuff like that already. So I recommend to check those out when you get done with this video and want to learn more. This also can apply to other ASIMs on and off Roblox, although results may vary, I don't know. Let's begin. Why should you use looping? Can't you just use dodging and juking and pure reaction time? Yes, but that requires a lot of skill. Even with that skill alone, you can still die without using the terrain to your advantage. You shouldn't rely on looping solely because, let's be honest, this strat is annoying and looping for 4 minutes is not fun for either side. You won't get any better if you rely on looping alone, but it should be using your arsenal of other strats alongside it, like juking, stamina management, using abilities wisely, etc. Can't you just keep running and get the same effect? No. No, you can't. The killer is slightly faster than the survivors, some slower, some who are pretty darn fast, and killers also have 10 stamina more than survivors, which doesn't sound like a lot, but pair it with faster speed and you're cooked. Here's a video example of a survivor and cool kid using up full stamina side by side. So how does looping help with this? Well, if you loop around a good loopable spot, more on this later, then you can make both distance and stamina. You are always at the end seeing where the killer is heading, and you can rest up and get stamina while the killer is strategizing on how to get you. It's a lot of strategy and focus for both ends, especially if one of those ends has no projectiles like Slasher or Sixer. So, in brief, you want to use looping as a part of your other techniques, as it is an essential strategy and a core part of the game. You shouldn't rely on it too much though, because you will not improve at the game and be the reason looping is hated so much. So, now that I have hopefully convinced you to use looping, I'll now tell you how to use it. Who didn't see that chapter name coming? Okay, so first of all, you've probably heard people say you can loop around anything, right? Yeah, throw that advice in the dumpster. There are things you can loop around and rooms and buildings you can loop around. I won't show every single one because there's probably a video that already shows them, but a good way to spot them is this. For objects, a good solid shape. No weird angles. You also want to be able to see the killer while looping because the killer can sneak up on you and maybe not hurt you, but make a ton of progress in the loop by closing off a bunch of distance. So this table would be a good loop, and so is this boulder. Anything long actually kind of depends. If you have a high stamina advantage and the killer's on the other side, it's not that bad, because as I already showed, a small loop helps the killer catch up way too quickly. And it would be like trying to hide behind a chair and tag. In terms of rooms, there's at least one every map, and I can't go through and explain them all since there are other guides you can look for. But loops where you can see the killer well, like ones with windows, doors, or any other openings to see through, work really well as you can see the killer and predict where to go next. Remember to apply things like stamina management and to try to keep your distance even when you're not looping. Say like a Noli teleports or a cool kid misses their walk speed override. While they can't move, you need to keep distance. While you're far, you can rest up on stamina, and yes, that does allow the killer to get close, but at the same time, they're using up their own stamina to catch up, which will give you a huge lead. You want the stamina lead in a loop, and the most distance in a chase if you want this to work. I know I'm probably beating a dead horse saying this, but you really need to not rely on this. It's not fun for either side, and frankly, really annoying. trust me, when you're going against someone who can loop well, it is going to be difficult. So remembering stamina management and remembering the counters that every killer has, pretty much every killer has a counter. Let's start with one of the most loopable. So Slasher has no projectiles that he can use to throw at the survivor. I mean, it would be pretty sick if he could throw the machete though, but that's besides the point. So the only thing that you can do is Raging Pace. You will stay at 19 speed, which isn't a lot. At the same time, it keeps you moving while you can gain back stamina, which when it fully fills back up, it'll drain until it gets to 70, which will then just stay like that until Raging Pace is done. If you're losing stamina, it is a good idea to pop Raging Pace. The survivor is going to run out of stamina eventually, and it helps keep you on the move. 1X is probably the best for ending loops. He has 2 projectiles, Entanglement and Mass Infection. Entanglement will freeze them on hit, which means you can go over and hit them before they get unstuck. And Mass Infection does have a long windup, but at the same time, it is highly possible that the survivor will run from the loop just to get away from the Mass Infection. Okay, so 1X actually got a rework, so his abilities work a bit differently. Entanglement doesn't have the minigame anymore, and it just kind of an overpowered blood hook now, so remember that. So pretty much Mass Infection, since it is faster now, is probably going to be your main anti-loop. So yeah. Anyways, the 1X rework sucks. Can we get this reverted, please? Thank you. Because remember, you want to stop the loop by either killing them or having them just run from the loop. You just need to end it in some way. And if you are able to hit them with Mass Infection, brownie points. Corrupt Nature and minions work very well. You can spawn minions to cut them off in a loop, and even if they run, they still left the loop, which makes it easier on chase. Corrupt Nature on hit gives slowness, so you can catch up better if you can hit your shot. John Doe is probably second best for ending loops. His spikes can block off loops, and digital footprints can either trap someone or force them to leave. That's all I really have to say about that. There's not much, but you know, he's still really good. Noli's decent for loops. He has a lot of mobility at the beginning of Void Rush, and he can throw his Void Star to either damage them or force them to leave the loop. Although, he is loopable sometimes, like around this stupid... Sixer is infamous for being the most loopable killer in the game, and if you were tuning in to see how to counter loops as Sixer, I hate to inform you there's not much you can do. His run speed was buffed recently to counter this, but it is still kind of hard. That doesn't mean he can't beat loops, but if you spawn on this map, yeah, just reset. I'm kind of joking, at least try. Hope nobody uses that loop. His Eviscerate makes him lunge forward, which is good for getting close, but if you miss, there's a bit of slowness, which that nerf needs removed, man. There is also Demonic Pursuit, so he can jump over some loops, but it's not very reliable. It does work sometimes though. If you have the survivor highlighted and you run forward specifically, you get a little bit faster. But again, it only works when you run forward, so it doesn't really help that much when you constantly turn. So yeah, I just hope that the devs buff Sixer because loops are still very hard to beat, and sometimes it's best to go to a different target in the meantime. Remember when I said 1X was the best killer to stop loops? I forgot something when I wrote this script. Do I need to even say anything? So remember, you want the survivor to leave the loop and or chip away at their health and chase. And, you know, of course catch up to them. Looping is a core part of the Forsaken gameplay loop. Looping is something you need to do if you want to survive. I don't care what anyone says, you can be very skilled and die if you don't use looping. But looping for a very long time is also just not fun for either side. It should be used when you have to hold the killer off for a while, or maybe in the last bit of last man standing, or when you're in critical health or cooldown. I think it's even okay to loot more if you're support, since they don't have much to stun or escape. Actually, I saw a comment on my targeting video, this is off script, but I saw a comment that said that they use targeting to their advantage when they're support. So they'll loop the killer all game because the killer's only interested in killing off the support first, so it kind of exploits their bad gameplay. I mean, I know it seems contradictory, but I kind of support that a little bit, as usually a support main, you know. Doing things like looping for over a minute though, or even the whole game, is absurd. And also, using looping as your only strategy is annoying, and it's not fun for either party. I defend looping like I do targeting, but I also think there are boundaries to both. Message to survivors: don't do the bad stuff I just said. And include it in your arsenal of techniques that you also use, like juking. Message to killers: don't be toxic when someone is looping. You target, and that's also annoying, so let's have our own annoying technique. Anyways, that's all I have to say. If you want to share your opinions on looping, feel free to. I'm out. Take care, guys.
You are an idiot! Hi. What?
Can you leave because I'm recording?
Oh, I didn't even know. I didn't even know. I'm sorry.
Close the door, bro.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry. You better add that into the...
Close the door, bro.
You better add that into the video.
No, I'm not.